Welcome to We Got Issues, the only comic book show with the bravery to admit that the Spider Clone saga is just as good as you remember it. Hi, I'm Brian Compton, aka Bcomp, and joining me always is the oracle to my Bat family, Josh Markwith. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Well, we have a couple things to unpack in this whole paragraph that you just said. So first and foremost, I know you're a Spider Clone Saga apologist, and that is baffling to me. For someone who is,
I just said it's as good as you remember it. I didn't say it was good. I just said it's as good as you remember it.
And me knowing you're a Spider Clone Saga apologist. You're like one of the only people that has been like, oh, it's actually better than you think it is. Well, it's not. It's not.
Mary Jane and Peter Parker are still married in there.
Okay, we have a one up on Brand New Day. All right, or even like the Dan Slott stuff right now. Okay, you got the points.
Point.
Yeah, it's okay. I concede to that. And then they've done so well with Ben Reilly since then, huh?
Oh, dude, they've done my boy dirty. They have done my boy dirty.
Even when you think he starts doing good, they just have to make him some. What was it? What is it? Started with an S, like not Spawn, but like.
Oh, he's like Chasm now.
Chasm, that's what it is. Yeah.
And he's like
Pryor's little.
Yeah, he's like hanging out with like the clone of Jean Grey now. So yeah. For those who don't know, Ben Reilly is the clone of Spider-Man. Well, yeah, probably you've seen Across the Spider-Verse or whatever the latest Spider-Verse film was, but we digress.
So, and then the next one, that's for all you fans out there. The next thing is, I'll take this one is one of the better ones, the Oracle to the Bat family. So I'm the person in the chair. That's one
I'll in the chair. And honestly, Batgirl is badass. Like I'm just saying, I'd kill to be Batgirl, but
and so I do sit a lot. That was a bad joke. That was a bad joke.
I don't know.
I don't know if we should keep that. Yeah, we'll keep it.
Keep it. By the way, say hi to your parents for me. Hi.
Yeah.
I hope your parents are well. Thank you for listening.
yeah, exactly. Oh man.
But we digress.
But and that joke was little for the fans who know Batgirl's history too. But speaking of Batman,
speaking of show.
Yeah, right. We should try to start it. So what are we going to be talking about on this episode? As if nobody read the beginning, the title,
title. Yeah. Well, today we're tackling Batman Year 2, the sequel to Frank Miller and David Mazzucchelli's Batman Year 1. But if Batman Year 1 is Gremlins, then Batman Year 2 is Gremlins 2, the new batch. To say that it is a batshit insane ride. But of course, before we can unpack all of that, let's talk about today's sponsor.
Who's going to be today's sponsor, do you think?
Well, it's TBD is reading it. TBD.
Right, TBD. Who is? Well, I mean, like, I wonder who our sponsor is.
Let's see. I'm going to jump out on a limb here.
Right. Someone who's been graciously sponsoring us this whole time, which is amazing. I think it's somebody who you need to go to, whether it's, giant gummy anacondas you're wanting or some Nessie's golden almond eggs or the new green apple alien gummies. You need to go to Duff and Shaw Snacks. And Duff and Shaw Snacks and candy are curated from the most mysterious and undiscovered places on planet Earth, uncovering flavors that will give you stories to tell your grandchildren. Now, we want you to go to duffandshaw.com/issues today. Not today, now. As you're listening, you can do two things at once. We know you can. And you need to check out all they've got and so much more. That's duffandshaw.com/issues, and the most legendary snacks in the world will finally be yours.
I mean, we go on enough tangents that they could probably go check it out while we're on a tangent. Order food. Like probably even order food from like DoorDash, wait for it to arrive, and eat the food while we're still in the middle of our first tangent. But
then by the time they're done, we'll get back on topic. It just works.
There you go. There you go. But seriousness, please check them out. It really does help the podcast. Does help the podcast, and we really appreciate it.
and they're good snacks. Like tried and tested. They're really good. So check them
Nice.
out. I like the buffalo cashews. Those are
Hmm,
mighty fine. So yeah.
nice. Nice. All right.
So as we mentioned, this episode we are jumping into the deep end with Batman Year Two, and this is a book that often gets lost in the shuffle when talking about Batman's early years. And I mean, what a better way to kind of get everybody on the same track and kind of kick this all off is by doing our tried and true reading the blurb on the back. And Brian, I'm going to have myself read it
Yeah.
as it
Damn
says
right
in
you
our
are.
outline. Yeah, as I read ahead in our outline
Yeah.
because we're totally unscripted.
There's no script here.
No, 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 no. But like so, here's the blurb on the back. With only a year's experience as Gotham City's new protector, Batman must now confront a nightmare out of the past, a distorted reflection of himself called the Reaper, who hunted Gotham's criminals a generation earlier. His methods were harsh and cruel and violent in the extreme. Now, just as a new breed of criminal is rising, the Reaper has returned to deal out his savage brand of justice. And the only way for Batman to stop this death dealing vigilante is to forge an alliance with the man who destroyed his life, his own parents' murderer. But can the Dark Knight stand to confront the secret of their deaths? Or will the Reaper's revelations finally cost him his sanity? Bum, bum, bum.
Yep. Basically
Yeah,
that.
that's the love of the night. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like that's from the 2002 printing of the book, which contains all the issues plus a one shot that's kind of tied into it. Now, we noted in our last episode that DC had recently pre-printed year one and year two as part of their DC's Finest collection, and basically this is their version of the Marvel Epic collections that kind of reprints all of the issues along with any kind of supplemental stuff that came out at the same time. Basically, it is worth noting though that in the recent reprint, they did not include the one-shot sequel called Full Circle, which brought back the original creative team of the original creator, original writer, and the original artist. Yeah, so just kind of putting
Yeah,
that
but
out there.
yeah, even though it's not on the Epic collection, if you go on like digital and you just get the year two trade,
Yeah,
I think, or even just in the latest year two trade, that is included in that.
yeah, yeah. If you actually just pick up the actual specific thing, year two, you will get the full story. You know, y- you don't need well, we can get into a little bit, but we don't you don't really need full circle to like understand and appreciate everything, but it is a nice little like kind of like denouement or addendum to the
Yeah.
whole thing. Kind of it does kind of wrap it up full circle. But anyway, let's get into the original issues. Josh, you want to tackle that?
Yeah, yeah. So originally it's published in 1987 for Detective Comics. It was number 575 to 578, and the story was written by Outsiders writer and creator Mike W. Barr and illustrated by Alan Davis, as well as an up and coming artist. I don't think a lot of people have heard of.
Hmm.
Definitely, he's kind of been gone to back in the shadows
Mm-hmm.
since then. But it's somebody named Todd McFarlane.
Todd McFarlane.
And
Okay.
yeah, right. You might have known him. He's kind of responsible for a couple of characters could have heard of. I know Spawn, Venom, and kind of that Spider-Man 300, which they reprinted and resold in 45 different covers, trying to
Or
milk that baby as much as they could.
well, that and Spider-Man number one as well. Like that when they brought back
Mhm.
this is not solo title, but the solo name. Yeah, yeah. Todd McFarlane, a young Todd McFarlane was kind of I wouldn't say young, but younger. It was kind of before he
Mhm.
became the Todd McFarlane that we all know and well. On paper, it, this shit is insane. I mean, the book kind of came out roughly 5 months after year one. Not even 5 months. It was actually like 2 or 3 months after year one wrapped itself up. You know, uh year two kind of hit stands. As you mentioned, it was DC's attempt to tell the second year of Batman's crime fighting career in the pages of Detective Comics. It's got a vigilante killer that uses gun swords. It's got Batman uh using a gun that killed his parents while he teams up with their killer Joe Chill. It's got Bruce Wayne getting engaged and so much more. And it's illustrated by Alan Davis and Todd McFarlane. On paper, this is nuts. And when it's printed on said paper and read, it's even more batshit crazy than I can describe. we'll get into specifics on my thought on whether this is good or not. But Josh, uh, what are your general thoughts, and how did you go about reading this? Was it recent? Was it a long time ago? Did you read it in trade, singles? You know, the usual spiel.
So first off, this whole, like you said, this whole story is just batshit crazy. I
Yeah,
mean,
and
and
pun
we,
intended.
yeah, exactly. We say that with a pun fully intended,
Yeah.
because there's so much to unpack on this one.
Yeah.
Is it needed? Is it Was it actually, a good story? Did it need to be a year 2? Why does he have these gun, sword, scythe things on both hands? Like, how does
How do you
he
scratch your ass, by the way, when that
exactly, how
happens?
do you pick up the phone? What does he do? Is an Edward Scissorhands situation, but then if he
Yeah.
tries to pick it up, he shoots it. So, it's kind of like he's like a Final Fantasy, like, summon character, it
Yes.
seemed like. It was even his look, it looked like, a mix of, the Grim Reaper, the skull, but then his armor looked like that, the Bram Stoker's Dracula,
Y
that armor in the
yes.
beginning with that red kinda, like, ceramic
Yeah.
looking. That's what he looked like when Keanu Reeves was in Budapest. But, um, it's just there's so many, for it to follow Batman Year One on such a high, this, I think, was lacking in both story, not the art, but I think just in the story, the characterization of Batman. There's a lot
Mhm,
of stuff. I'm in some of Batman stuff. I'm kind of a traditionalist,
mhm,
and things like once you see Batman have a gun, that's when I turn off. I'm like,
mhm,
no, his whole thing is he's against guns.
mhm.
There's not. I mean, I don't see a situation where he would need it, even in that Final Crisis. That
Y
that kind of defames like that moment in Final Crisis where he
mhm.
shot and killed Darkseid because he used a gun.
You know, it's funny, when I read about this story, it was back in the '90s, and I think I read about it, like, in a Wizard magazine, and I remember saying, like, "Oh, this is when Batman, early in his career, decides to use a gun because he's still learning the ropes," and I remember that the way I read it in, like, Wizard magazine, like, "Oh, that makes sense. This is, like, that time I was like, maybe I need to use a gun, maybe I need to be that extreme," and he realizes very early in his career, like, "Nope, not gonna be doing that," and I remember, like, thinking, like, that sounds so cool. Holy crap, and the guy who trains him how to use a gun is Joe Chill." Like, I remember the way it was written, I was like, "This sounds extremely, like, extreme, but kinda cool." So, I went to go pick it up. Holy hell, um, yeah, it defies expectations. I'll
Yeah.
put it that way.
Even if your expectations were positive, it defies those.
You know, it's honestly one of those books that for it's either a guilty pleasure or you absolutely hate this book. You know,
Mhm.
and there's really no extreme. There's no in between. It's like you're either like, yeah, I know it's bad and I fucking love it, or I'm like, this is just bad and I don't care for it. Um, but yeah,
Apropos, like the Spider Clone Saga, we just
no,
mentioned, it's very similar to that. There's no extreme. There's
no,
extremes.
but at least Spider-Man for the most part was within character. Like Peter Parker's within
Yeah.
character in that book. Like
I
this version of Batman is, I hate to say it's like, well, it's not my Batman, but it's like
Mhm.
it isn't the Batman I kind of know. I mean, I'm saying it's the
Right.
wrong Batman, but I'm surprised editorial let them do this version of Batman.
And I just meant the sentiment behind the
Yeah, yeah,
story,
yeah.
like fan sentiment behind it.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's not only just the characterization of Batman, but also the characterization of Joe Chill.
yeah.
It
Well,
takes away
yeah,
from that.
let's break down a little bit of the context of it, and then we'll start into the issues, and we'll kind of dissect each of these characters as we kind of get
Ye
through it.
Yeah, and before though, there's just one panel that it's burned in my brain.
Okay.
It's when Batman there I think it's when they first is Batman and Joe Chill trying to fight the Grim Reaper for the first time,
Yeah.
and then, like, something happens, so he has to, like, zip away. And you have Batman kinda, scaling the rooftops like he normally
Yeah.
does, you know? And you have Joe Chill right next to him like he's an acrobat himself
Oh,
on
I
the
know.
same level as Batman. I was just like,
Well,
what?
that's
What?
I mean,
It's
that I hate
like
to say, but
he's like,
That's Todd McFarlane art though for you,
still,
you know what I
that's
mean?
like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
Like, he's a vigilante rooftop guy now?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and in that regard, it's also interesting, like, Joe Chill to me has always just been some punk thief that, like, stumbled on the
Right.
wanes and, like, and in this, I love his characterization was like, he's, like, talking to some, like, mobsters, like, "When I need women or drugs, I come to you. When you need somebody killed, you come to me." I'm like, "What are you, Deadshot now? Like, what the
Right.
hell?" You know, "You're Deathstroke the Terminator? What is going on here?" It was like
Yeah.
it made him sound like he's, like, this, like, badass assassin. I'm like, "No, you're just some hood, man."
Right,
But
and then it's also it takes away from Batman's origin of it being a random crime
yeah,
in
act of
crime alley
violence.
that
Yeah,
that pushes him to try to his mission to stop all crime in Gotham. So
yeah,
like so he could stop it from happening to anybody else.
yeah. It's a
Yeah.
take. I don't know if it's the right take, but it was a take, and we can get into whether it was not or whether it was,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
as we get to this. So, as I'd mentioned, a lot of people, like, assume that this was a planned sequel to sort of, like, to cash in on the success of year 1 that kind of came after, like, "Oh my god, year 1's doing really well. We need to get this year 2 out, like, ASAP." Yes and no. Originally, it was actually developed back in 1984. It predates Batman Year One by a couple years. It was originally going to be called Batman 1980 when Mike W. Barr, the writer, pitched it to DC or to the editorial team, but they were like, "We're not interested in telling Batman's past. We want to move towards the future." Then Crisis on Infinite Earths happens, and we always talk about a little bit about post-crisis and the post-crisis events and the post-crisis DC. This was like now post-crisis DC, like, oh, we want to go back and tell those origin stories, like going back to the roots of the character. So, like, do you have anything in the bank? It's like, matter of fact, I do. Let's pull out this old thing called Batman 1980 and just label it year two, and sort of like how Batman, decided to not use a gun. As I'd mentioned, the story kind of came quickly. The last issue of Batman Year One, Batman 407, hit shelves January 20th. The first issue of Batman Year Two, Detective Comics 575, hits shelves March 3rd. So they were pretty close to each other within like a month or two. That as soon as Batman Year One was done, Year Two was kind of hitting the shelves right afterwards.
Yeah, they couldn't even
Um,
wait a year. That's what's
no, they
funny. It's
didn't.
like
There's like, go get it
just 3
out
months.
now. Um, so let's get into the creative team. Do you mind if I tackle the writer, Josh? Mike
You get
W.
into
Barr?
the writer, that's your
Okay.
bag, and yeah, I
My
think you have
bag,
a lot of
baby.
and you have a lot of insight on the writer on this one.
Yeah, so he is an American writer, predominantly known for his work on DC books like Batman and the Outsiders, which he co-created or created essentially. He's also known for The Brave and the Bold. He did a book called Camelot 3000. He also worked on various Star Trek comics and books actually back in the day. He also had a decent run over at Malibu Comics on their Ultraverse line. I believe it was a book called Mantra. His take on Batman comics is kind of known for two things. Number one, he was really big about sort of taking golden and silver age kind of concepts, harkening back to that and making them new for a new audience, or making, like, updating them for like the modern age of comics. So it was like giant death traps and over the top villains and things to that regard. The other thing he is known for is his Batman, for lack of a better word, has a disregard for life. Um, and I listened to an hour-long interview with him, and he talks about that. He's like, "Look, my version of Batman's like, yeah, he's not a cold-blooded killer, but if someone's gotta take out the trash, they gotta take out the trash." For example, like, at one point, like, some guy pulls an Uzi on Batman, and I think it's, like, in Detective 572, and he grabs a criminal and, like, literally uses the criminal as a human shield as the guy gets like, I'm like, "Well, I guess you didn't kill him, you just used him to die, so you didn't."
Huh.
There's Batman, I think it's Batman Annual number 8, where it's literally just Moonraker, the James Bond film Moonraker. Ra's al Ghul's up on a space station, he's got a space laser, and, like, literally Batman's like, "Cool, let's incinerate him and spread his ashes out into space." It's just like,
My
of
goodness.
course, Ra's al Ghul's gonna come back, but it was just like, even Robin's like, "Yo, you doing that?
You
Okay.
cool, bro? You
Like,
cool?
cool." Yeah. The other thing he's kind of known for, he's partially responsible for Damian Wayne. If you don't know who Damian Wayne is, that's the son of Batman. He did a book called Son of the Demon, which was basically just a graphic novel, back in I want to say it was 1987 when this came out. And it was like, yep, it's Batman hooking up with Talia, and she's preggers and she has a son. Um, what ends up happening is he was going to continue telling the stories, but then I guess, like, according to him, Jeanette Kahn, who was the basically the public, like the president of DC Comics, like apparently she took a bunch of shit from the execs in Burbank from the Warner Bros. Like, you can't do that. You can't have Batman with a kid. That's impossible. Don't ever do that again. If you do that, you're all going to be fired, including her. And he's like, I don't know about that. Because then, like later on, Mark Waid kind of brought him into the fold during Kingdom Come, and which he did credit. And then, of course, obviously, the bigger one was when Grant Morrison creates Damian Wayne, and he even admits, like, yeah, that's the son of the demon graphic novel is sort of the inspiration for that. It's not a one to one, like they won't say that that's the same son, but that was at least the inspiration for it. So yeah, that's kind of like a little bit of Mike W. Barr. He's kind of very outspoken on a lot of things. He was a very big proponent of Bill Finger, and apparently that kind of got him in trouble with DC Comics because they didn't
Mhm.
want to admit that Bill Finger had anything to do with it when he back in the day. But I'm glad he's like, as long as I if he always is like, this is my response. I feel like I need to stand up for this man. The dude died
Mhm.
of pauper. I gotta, and maybe not him, but a lot of people have. And I'm glad that Bill Finger, if you don't know, has gotten his due. And if you don't know, we should do a whole thing on Bill Finger because that man is responsible for everything we know about Batman, essentially.
Yeah, and they did a documentary about
Yep. It's on Hulu.
his yeah, right. What I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's just look
It's
up
great.
Bill look up Finger on Hulu and see what pops up. Um,
So that's basically Mike W. Barr. I would say that he's, I think, one of the underappreciated Batman writers. He didn't do a lot. He did a lot with the Outsiders and Batman and the Outsiders, but the actual run on Detective Comics is only about, you know, minor. But he did team up for his run predominantly with our artist known as Alan Davis. Josh, you want to tackle Alan?
yeah, I'll tackles the artists on this book. So Alan Davis is an English artist. He's known for his work on Marvel books, kind of like mostly on Excalibur and the mainline X-Men books. He began his career in the UK teaming up with a little known English writer named another one. I don't know if anybody's really heard of him, but Alan Moore,
No, I don't know who that is.
the lizard wizard himself. He was on books with Alan Moore, mostly Captain Britain and Miracle Man, aka Marvel Man, depending on what strikes your fancy or who you created him, because then that's a whole thing too. Like,
That's a whole thing too.
yeah, it's a whole thing. And from there, he found a U.S. audience when he joined Mike W. Barr on his Batman and the Outsiders book, and eventually Detective Comics. And really, he's mostly known for his smooth lines and his dynamic poses. Fans of Brian Hitch, who I mean, one I could be a little bit of a fan of Brian Hitch.
Yeah,
I don't
a
know.
little bit.
I've kind of talked about it. And Carlos Pacheco will appreciate that type of style. And he's not just an artist, though. Too, he's a writer, and he's also writes a lot of his stories for Excalibur, JLA, The Nail, which that's an interesting book too.
Yeah.
Clandestine, and that's just to name a few. Like The Nail is one of those I really like, one of those Elseworld type of books.
It was so good
Um,
they did a sequel to it, which is rare
right,
in the Elseworlds. It was the Another Nail, I think was the sequel.
right, and just for people who don't know, the story behind JLA The Nail is basically, what if Ma and Pa Kent ran over a nail and their tire blew out before they could find baby Superman on the his ship come down. So it kind of changes the origin of just the DC universe.
Mhm.
Um,
Of course, he wasn't the only artist. Who else?
no, as for before
Aforementioned.
aforementioned, that's what it was. As aforementioned, Todd McFarlane picked up the book, and really at this point, not a lot of he doesn't need a lot of introduction. He's the creator of Spawn, Venom. He's mostly known for Spider-Man and becoming one of the creators of Image Comics, and he's a huge baseball fan. So he's also really known for owning the Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa baseballs when they're doing that whole home run race. And but and he's he's known for being also a little bit of an outspoken person. He doesn't refrain from speaking his mind about
Yep.
pretty much everything. And he has a huge line of action figures too,
Farland
like very
Toys.
McFarlane toys, which are super detailed, super posable, great kind of creepy stuff too. Like he does like a
Yeah.
lot of the horror stuff, which kind of
Mm.
creeps me out. But he he is one of those artists that have kind of redefined how a character looks. So his art style really redefined Spider-Man
Yeah,
specifically.
absolutely. Yep.
He kind of he did the poses where he looked more what's
Athletic, agile,
athletic, yeah.
spider-like. Yeah, like his legs would
Yeah.
almost be bending over his head, you know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. It was Spider-Man yoga or Spider-Man
Yeah.
Pilates.
Yeah, he had to put
And
the webs back under his arms, and, like, his webs
yeah.
had, like, a little instead of just, like, a strand, it was like, oh, it looked like it was like a textured web, you know what I mean? It was, like,
Right,
wrapped
right,
around.
right. Which was it was kind of like a defining Spider-Man, like 90s
Yeah.
Spider-Man,
I mean,
look.
it's gone on since then. I mean, ever since then, but that's now Spider-Man is not necessarily drawn that way, but it's every artist kind of takes it from that. You know, from Steve Ditko, everyone kind of followed that, and John Buscema, not Buscema, I'm sorry, John Romita Sr., that was kind of the look.
Mhm.
And then when Todd McFarlane came in, and you know, you could argue like Mark Bagley and all them like took their inspiration from him. You know,
Totally. His art is very kinetic as
yes,
well. Like it's very lack of a better word, it's very 90s, which
yeah,
but a good thing. That's
yeah.
a good thing.
It it's the good '90s, you know,
Yeah.
which I don't know if there was, but that if there was, that was it.
Right, and his art lended to really hard inks and, hard colors that really helped it, like the thick
Yeah.
inks and stuff, which was good.
And big capes.
And big
Lots of
capes.
big
Yeah,
capes.
kinda like, that they even had that in the Spawn movie where that one shot towards the end was it was just filled with his cape, um, which I think they're even trying to make another Spawn movie,
They are
which I've heard.
supposedly, what is it, Jamie Foxx is attached to, but we'll see if that
Yep,
actually happens.
we'll see how that
He
goes.
I had the, pleasure of actually meeting, McFarlane a few years back, you know, I'll make the story quick. It was back when I was at Nerdist, and he was coming in for an interview, and we were right by the Burbank airport, so he must have flown in through Burbank, and, "Okay, we'll be there at 9 to, you know, let you in, Todd," and, you know, but, you know, I luckily got there at 8. I get a text from one of my PA or not my PAs, one of my producers like, "Dude, I think Todd McFarlane is standing out on the porch right now." I'm like, "Dude, it's 8 o'clock. What do you mean?" He's like, "On the porch right now." And I just go booking it down the hall. And there's Todd McFarlane with the suitcase just hanging out on the porch. Like, no one's there. Security's not there. And no one's there. And I'm just like,
Wow.
thank God I came into work early, man. And I'm just like, hey,
Yeah.
Mr. McFarlane, can I let you in? I'm like, oh, yeah. And he was very pleasant. You know, I put him in the green room. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I thought we're interviews at 9. He's like, yeah, that's fine. I just got to the airport early. I'm like, then he was out to do promotion for like Venom or something like that. I think like one of the first Venoms was out. And yeah, he was very, very nice. Like he went to the green room, just chilled, and got him a Coke or something like that. But
Oh, nice.
it was just funny that he just like I just love, dude. And it was funny. I think Bowser and my other producer Aaron were like, dude, I think Todd McFarlane's out on the patio porch right now. I'm like, what?
Oh, man, yeah, that must have that would freak me out. That must have freaked you out.
It was not the text I was expecting. you know?
Right. Right, and it's a We Got Issues exclusive. Todd McFarlane drinks Coke.
Oh, I don't know if it was Coke.
He's a Coke man.
Whoa.
He's a Coke man. No,
Okay,
Brian,
we're gonna go.
put it in
Bro,
the trades. It's gonna show up on CBR or something.
yeah,
Todd
sure.
McFarlane, Coke drinker.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
go with that. So one of the things I'm sorry, I'm just trying to keep us
no,
from
right?
digressing digressing too far. Big thing was like, why was there a change in artist? You know, obviously different artists in arcs are nothing new, but it's usually because of deadlines. Um, the change in artist is actually really interesting. Do you know the story, Josh, or should I kind of give them a little bit of a
No, this is all you. You are the
okay,
historian. I just read the books,
fair enough.
and I give them a
So
color commentary.
there you go. So okay, so that was good. Yeah, so why did they suddenly go from one issue with Alan Davis to suddenly Todd McFarlane in the middle of this like arc? You know, usually you do want to keep artists consistent. Obviously, there's things that change. We saw that like Infinity Gauntlet when George Perez had to be replaced with Ron Lim. You know, it's just deadlines. You know, that was not the case here. Alan Davis was always pretty good with his headlines, but deadlines. But what happened was he was having editorial problems. Like he was like, "Yo, like I'm having this issue," and editorial wouldn't listen, and they wouldn't listen. They're, "Yeah, we're gonna fix it." And he said it was always band-aids. It was band-aids, or, "Oh yeah, we're gonna take care of it," and they never would. And eventually, what ended up happening was he draws the cover for the first issue, and it shows, Batman with the gun in all the stuff he had drawn and everything he'd been told. Batman has a Luger. That's what Joe Chill used to kill his parents, was a Luger. He goes to get the first issue, and there's, Joe Chill with a 45, which means someone went through and cleaned out his art and replaced it with like new art and
Mhm.
didn't bother to tell him. And he was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm out. You guys, I told you about this. And, because he told him, like, "Hey, I noticed there's some inconsistency with the Luger and the 45, which is like, oh, don't worry about it. Just draw your thing." And they just constantly did that. And he was like, when he saw that they had just done that without telling him, he was like, "I'm out. I'm done." And he just walks. He's like,
Oh
"I'm done
man,
with
yeah,
this."
that must have been the last straw. Like there
Yeah, it
must have been
was.
so much or more.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I mean, it definitely was. I'm sorry, excuse me.
Yeah.
But what I mean is, like, there must have been so much other stuff behind
Mhm.
the scenes where that was what changed it.
Yeah.
Like just the changing of the gun. It's
Yeah, it was.
for somebody
Yeah.
on the outside, it doesn't seem like a huge change, but it definitely probably it must have been just one of many and one of just his last, you know,
Yeah, it just broke
the
him at that
big
point.
changes. Yeah.
Which, it's funny because later on in the book, when Todd's drawing the book, when Joe Chill shows up and is teaming up with Batman, Joe Chill is rocking a Luger at that point
Right.
in the present day, and he's like,
Right.
"Oh, that," and just like, "Oh, what?" And so yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, I mean, I don't blame him. I'd be pretty pissed off if like you just made changes without telling me. I mean, it's their
That's the big thing.
prerogative.
Yeah.
It's their prerogative. They can do what they want. It's their character. It's their book. Your work for hire. But I also understand where he's coming from. It's like a simple email. Well, I guess in that case, a phone call would have been like, "Hey, we're
Right.
doing this thing," or
A
moving
simple
forward. Can you?
postcard.
Well, because he makes it sound like, well, it's like the interview I read with him. He makes it sound like he's like, they could have just told me. I brought it up, and they could have just been, "Yeah, you know what? Post crisis, we're gonna have it. Joe Chill killed him with a 45. Just make sure you modify all your art to that." But they didn't, or at least that's kind of what I got out of it. But I digress.
Yeah. Yeah. And it does make sense. I see what we're saying, and but yeah, it must have been just the peak of what dealing with the editorial at the time was too,
Yeah.
especially to bring in at the time a new person like Todd McFarlane on Batman Detective Comics.
Speaking of which, I don't. The art styles are obviously very different. I think they complement each other in their own way, but it is kind of a. It's not as jarring as something like, I think I'd say it, and it's like I do like Ron Lim a lot, but like going from George Perez to Ron Lim was a little bit jarring in Infinity
Mhm.
Gauntlet. I didn't mind it as much in this. It definitely, it's not the same. Like they weren't trying to emulate each other. I don't think. Like I don't think Todd was trying to do like a bad Alan Moore or a good or an Alan Davis, excuse me. But I think he was just doing him. I didn't mind it that much. It's annoying when that happens, but I didn't like, "Oh, I'm done with this book. Get out of here," because
Yeah.
love him or hate him, Todd McFarlane's still a good artist. Does some dynamic
Yeah,
stuff.
and I feel like this was before Todd McFarlane was getting into his own kind of
Yeah,
way of drawing as well. Like this was before
yeah,
Spider-Man is when he first was kind of giving it was given full kind of range and he kind of showed his full range. This one
mhm,
does seem kind of his safe side. I mean, just when he
yep,
was starting out, he's given a big book,
yep,
he was starting out, you didn't know what to do. I mean, it's kind of like it reminds me of we look back at some of the old Romita Jr. or even like the
mhm,
Huber brothers art in the '90s,
yeah.
doing like Executioner Song. That's you have some inkling of it, but it's definitely much different from their style when they were doing like Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the thing. It's like because you even look at like because Todd had done some stuff before that. I think he did Incredible Hulk. I think he had done stuff
Mm,
with GI Joe. So he'd been around a little bit, but like he wasn't, like I said, he wasn't Todd McFarlane. And kind of your point, John Romita Jr. If it wasn't for his father, he did that Uncanny X-Men run back in the '80s, and it's like it's okay. But when he kind of hits '90s, like that's peak John Romita Jr. in the '90s. Like he becomes John Romita Jr. And like you said, to your point, the Kubrick
yeah.
brothers very similar to that. But
Funny enough, both of them, all three of them are nepo babies in a sense of the comic
yeah, that's
artists.
true. Yeah, that's true. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
And I think Emma Kubert's one of the daughters, like she's like, like the granddaughter of Joe Kubert. So yeah, let's keep
Hmm.
that ball rolling.
Yeah.
Let's get into the actual issues though.
Let's do it. Why not?
um,
Let's get into this
yeah.
this whole bag of craziness and just amazing, batshit crazy. And we're gonna say that a lot because
Oh
it's
yeah,
a
because
fun
it's a
pun,
funny pun. It's
and
a fun pun.
yeah, it's a fun pun. Bah, bah, fun pun. So with this one, first issue, Gordon, he's no longer a lieutenant or a captain. He is the commissioner, which is
Which
great.
happens real quick. He went from
Yeah.
captain to commissioner in a
Like,
year.
yep, in a year, which shows how awesome he was at the
Or
job, I guess.
that or just how
They just
corrupt Gotham PD was.
that too. And they just like, or even just DC was just like, let's just start him as commissioner.
Yeah,
It's
let's
gonna
get there.
confuse people even more. It's just whatever.
Yeah.
And then we also have a big character in Batman's mythology, and his origin is Dr. Leslie Tompkins, who that character, her involvement in Bruce's his history changes
Mhm,
a lot. Like it generally is from the beginning. Like Bruce has a connection with her since a child, usually, but it's
mhm,
just
mhm.
depending on when that happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like right after his parents have died. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's a little bit later and
Yeah.
everything. But the
Well,
generally is like she's just a doctor within Gotham that's helped out unfortunate people, and he's known Bruce, and she's even worked with his dad as well.
and canonically, I think it was just in a recent issue of Hush 2.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Batman was I think it's established that she was the first one on the scene before Alfred, before James Gordon. And that's the literally the most recent issue of Batman establishes that right at the top. It's like, oh yeah, she was the first one on the scene. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Well,
We'll
we'll
talk
talk
about
about
that
Hush
issue.
2 in a little
He'll
bit.
talk about Hush 2 in a little bit.
Um, and but she is, yeah, she has also a big role in the Batman War Games. So let's just put that in there for my
Put that in
Batman
people's
War
heads.
Games. Yeah, my Batman War Games mention.
So that's number 4.
Yes, exactly. you for all those keeping tally and taking shots. Um, Yeah, with Leslie Tompkins, though, Bruce meets the beautiful Rachel Caspian, and you also know at that time she's soon to be a nun.
Oh,
Randomly,
yep. Yeah, I was
like,
like, "Okay."
of course,
I
Bruce meets a woman who wants to be a nun.
It's like, "I'm heading off to the convent. It'd be nice to go to dinner with you, but I'm in love with God."
Yeah, it's like,
It's
well,
literally how it goes.
right, and Bruce is just like in love with God right now.
Literally, there's a panel, he's like, "Oh, you're going to she's gonna be coming over." He taps his fingers again, like, Mr. Burns like, "Excellent."
Yeah,
He
excellent
literally does the
stuff.
panel, like, "Excellent.
Yeah,
I shall
it's
I
so
shall I
weird.
shall hoard my way into this dinner date."
Yeah. But also it's just like, of course she's a nun. It's they could have anything else.
Yeah.
Like, it's like I'm on my way to the sister to be Sister Rachel. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Like, well, and
Sure.
through her though, you meet her dad, Judson,
Yes.
Caspian, which that's a hell of a name. Uh,
Yeah.
he's back in town and decides to go out on an evening stroll, and where he sees Gotham is as bad as it's ever been. And you know what? He decides to come out of retirement and put on his old Reaper costume and just kind of goes about killing thieves and just killing everybody kind of Punisher style in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I love that, apparently Gotham had a vigilante killer before Batman. It was
I did like
just
that mention of
yeah,
that
and
little
that was
history
the
of
whole
it.
point. Well, that was the thing is like since there and that's the reason it existed is like as this is year 2 and we're rebooting everything post crisis, like why not say that there was like this pre Batman to Gotham City kind of thing. Um I will say, as you mentioned, the dude looks like a Final Fantasy villain. He's literally like red leather armor with a skull mask. And when he takes it off, he looks like Jack Larry David. It's like literally
He
Jack Larry
does.
David as the Punisher. It's like this dude is like 25 years older than Bruce Wayne and is like literally the same kind of hair. Like he's ripped Mr. Burns, shredded Mr.
Yeah.
Burns.
Or even like a tall Oberon from the New
Yeah.
Gods.
Yeah.
Oberon is always like the balding.
Yeah.
Is just looks weird. Like it's like just a jacked up old guy. And
Yeah. He's just really tall and built and he's the
right,
Punisher essentially, you know? But he's also like
yeah.
he
Where
like straight up like kills cops too though. Like that's what's crazy about this
he
guy. He's
does
like
not care. Yeah,
he's like, "Oh, you're a prostitute, gonna kill you." It's like, "Okay, okay." And you defend her, capo. Well, I'm gonna kill you too. I'm like, "The
right.
hell
You
with these like
dare stop?
yeah. And he's got these like mace hands with scythe blades with pistols in them that he like literally blows people away or just cuts them across the chest. It's like, what the hell?
I was half expecting him to have a jetpack or some like spring shoes or something because it was
Yeah.
just so outlandish and so crazy. It seemed like they were really trying to get that action figure created.
Yeah, that or it was just like it was a reaction to like, like the pre-90s when because like man, like the 90s was all about spikes and blades. Well, this is the beginning
Right.
of it. This
Right.
is the
And,
beginning of it, man. This
and shit.
predates all that crap, all that image stuff and the Spawn
Uh,
stuff and all. It's here, baby.
he was just missing like the 45 different pouches and on and around him.
Yep, you got me there. That's true. Yeah, he didn't have that Rob Liefeld, jam. Yeah, so yeah, anyway, so Batman finds out about this dude's like just going out exterminating people. Is like, well, not in my town, baby. And like literally finds out through Gotham or through Gordon is like, I'm gonna track this dude down and stop him before he kills more people. And guess what happens? Batman gets his ass kicked by shredded Mr. Burns,
Right. Apparently his armor is just too good. His
It's
leather armor.
leather armor.
His leather armor, and he's just able to withstand any punches or kicks or any blunt force stuff. So
I saw someone describe it as like it's studded armor plus 4, like
he
if you're a
plus four, yeah. God,
yeah, so I was like, "That's
goodness,
great."
yeah, he has a good Constitution saving throw.
Yeah, no kidding.
That I don't know.
But
That was a D&D term. I don't know what
yeah,
that
yeah.
meant.
What's D no.
What's the
Anyway,
D&D?
but yeah, the Reaper proceeds to then kick the shit out of this young Batman because essentially the guy's like 20 to 25 years older than Bruce at this point. Yeah, has not been doing this for a while. Like he literally goes out of town and then comes back to see his daughter. He's like, "Oh, Gotham's turned into a shithole. Let me put on my armor and go kick some ass." And then proceeds to kick the hell out of Batman. Like this dude's literally his second year. He's still young, prime, full. He gets his
Right,
butt handed to him. Shot at, cut across the chest. He literally has to pick up a manhole cover to like use himself like Captain America to like make sure he doesn't get
right.
killed.
Which, first of all, if he's strong enough to pick up a manhole cover like that to
Yeah.
block like a bullet, then you should be able to punch pretty hard and kick pretty hard. So
Yeah.
it was
It's
it
not
was
it's
weird.
it's fun up to you're like, okay, all right, this is well, you gotta give Batman a good villain. I mean, your hero's only as good as their villain, so let's go with that. But I love that like Batman's response to all of this isn't like, well, I better start training again. No, I'm gonna go get the gun that killed my parents, and I'm gonna start hunting criminals down the same way. It's like,
It was, and
that's an
I
extreme
checked out.
reaction.
That's very extreme. 0 to 100 or negative one
It's
hundred,
over
and
5,000,
yeah, exactly. And that's where I just and right from issue one, I am out. I'm like, nope, you did it in record time. I am out. Like, and that's it was that was no. I'm still exasperated from it. It's just
And
so bad.
that's not even the craziest thing that happens in this whole thing. That just kicks it off. Like, you know what I mean? That's what I love about this. Like, it's like, oh, you think that's crazy? No, we're gonna top it. We're gonna go even more.
Right. With not only is he using a gun, he's using the gun that killed his parents.
It's
And
oh,
yeah,
to that
okay.
point, like,
So for audio only people, like Brian is having a fucking conniption right now.
well,
Good lord.
okay, just okay. This is the gun that killed his parents, right? So, and they show in later on, you see him like find the gun, like as Bruce Wayne, baby Bruce Wayne, he palms the sucker and hides it. I'm like, maybe you want to give that to the cops.
Right.
Maybe that's evidence. Maybe there's fingerprints on there. Maybe they could use that gun to go find your parents' killer. Instead, you're gonna take the gun as a kid, stash it for 20 years, and then pull it out and say, I'm going on a murder spree to kill this guy who
Right.
kicked my ass.
Yeah.
What?
He was, and then also he could have done and dusted it when he became a detective, like himself.
Well,
He
at that
could,
point,
like,
he probably wiped his hands all over. There's no way he could have whatever.
oh
It was in
yeah,
the
no,
sewer
true.
drain, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like, are you like what? What? And that's not even the craziest thing that happens in this book. Not even the
Right.
craziest thing.
This is issue 1.
Or that's just chapter
This is
one.
issue
Here we
1.
go. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you're either on board at this point or you're like, I'm out. I'm out.
Out of the
Yeah,
train. I was out of the train. Issue 1. I was like, nope. When I
I'm
saw
a
the panel with him gun and he was gonna go out, I was like, all right, you got me. I'm out.
See, I'm like, let's crash this train, baby. Let's see where we're gonna let's see where this train wreck is heading, baby. I love it. Let's go. Let's go.
Goodness.
Let's go.
I just said, not my Batman, please. Like, we were rooting for you.
Well, so this all leads us into the next issue, Detective Comics 576. And this is where we have the change in artist. As I had mentioned, Alan Davis had, drawn it with a Luger. They went through, they redrew it as a 45 because that's what they want to do, which again, that's for their prerogative, but it's also his prerogative to be like, I ain't gonna work for you. So we open on a bunch of cops and they're trying to move a criminal witness. And they're like, okay, we got to get this like witness through witness protection or whatever. And all of a sudden, someone starts shooting at them, and they're like, oh crap, pa 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 pa. It's up on the roof, and they're like firing at this thing. And come to realize that it's like a robotic wheelchair gun dummy covered with a trench coat and a hat. And it's just randomly firing bullets. So not only is Reaper Homie like, still like a badass when it comes to like, he also builds robots that shoot
Apparently.
guns.
Yeah. He's apparently a robotics genius who can
Yeah.
do doom bots out of nowhere.
Well, it's like also like where's his lab? Where's his like engineering facility that he's like able to design this thing? I mean, I get it.
In a day's notice.
Yeah.
And like he
And
just came back.
yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I get it. It's comics, and that's what I love about comics is like just that insanity. It's like, it's like where you have a panel of two people fighting and they're like mid swing and punching. You have like, pages of dialogue in between the punch. It's like,
Yeah.
it's just how the medium is. It's just like sometimes when you're like, oh, we're going to go insane. Let's just go for it. I'm like, yep, you're going for it. And, making a robotic wheelchair dummy to shoot at cops to distract them so you can then go through and kill this dude. Sure, go for it.
It just seemed like, yeah, they were trying to have a lot of Batman villains all in one. They were trying to get pieces of the Joker, pieces of the Riddler, a little bit of not at the time because he wasn't made at the time, but Bane, just with
Yeah.
all these little different parts, and it was just like it was a hodgepodge that just did not taste good or like it's a goulash. Let's say he's a Batman villain goulash. That's what he is, and I did not like the first bite, and
Yeah, you were out. You were out.
I was
Well, and I
out.
love too. He uses this thing to like distract so he can then kill the prisoners. And just for good measure, he kills a few cops along with it because he's like, hey, that's what you get for protecting that trash. Maybe you should have done your job better.
Yeah, or
Sure.
not do your job. That doesn't make
Yeah,
sense. Yeah,
whatever. Yeah. From there, we get Batman practicing with the gun. I love he's like, you down the firing range. Pop box. Apparently, he has a
right.
shooting range. Like, okay,
The
whatever. It's
bat
a bat
shooting
cave.
range. Yeah.
It's a bat cave, whatever. But I love that, like, he's like ace shot with this thing, and like, Alfred's like, "Yo, you've been practicing?" Like, no, I'm good. I got this. It's like, cool, sure.
Whatever.
I get it. Like, he's perfect at everything. He's of course gonna be perfect at shooting a gun. It just seems like almost like kind of like opposite of what the character would be to be like, no, perfect shot, man.
Yeah, yeah. But I do see he would
He
be
would
as good
learn.
as he would learn, so
Yeah,
he could his
yeah.
defense against it, and then
Which I was actually fine with. It's just funny to me. It's like, for a
yeah,
guy who's like so anti-gun, has got a shooting range,
his
and
best
not only
shot.
is he perfect shot, like, and
Right.
which comes into play later on, of course. Um,
And then
from there,
from there, he kind of hears that Rachel is an opening for her lunch plans, and he's just like, you know what? I'm gonna put some moves on the soon to be nun.
yes, he
Who
is.
cares? Who cares about the church? Why don't you come with me, baby, and all my money?
Yes.
Uh, and then, but with that, we get the Rachel's backstory as well as her father, the Reaper, and basically, it's the Punisher meets Batman. Thief shoots him and kills his wife.
Yeah.
So there's that little Punisher origin similarity.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you gotta remember, this is 1987. This is actually, like, right when, like, I think the 2nd series of Punisher is coming out. So Punisher's hot at this point. So, of course, DC is gonna want their own take on this, like, hardcore vigilante character. I'm sure at the time, in comic shops around the world, it was the Punisher versus Batman, who would actually win in a fight. And we're gonna, this is like kind of like the Squadron Supreme version of the Punisher, almost in a weird
Right.
way, you know?
Yeah, the backwards way of Squatch Supreme. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, like, honestly, maybe it would make sense. I mean, like, if, Punisher had been in Vietnam, he'd be an older dude at this point. Like, he would have gun swords, sure. But other dudes, like,
sure.
literally rocking a skeleton mask,
Yeah.
or a skull mask. And like you said, he's unapologetically, I'm going to kill people. Like I said, Punisher's hot at this time. So it's kind of the mashup fans probably wanted, I think. I don't
Yeah.
know. Maybe.
And like you mentioned though too, it's a constant debate of why doesn't Batman kill, or why doesn't the Batman like the Punisher and just put away people like the Joker and Scarecrow and just keeps just putting them in the Arkham jail. And I see some points in that, but I think that kind of takes away from Batman. I like how Batman
Mhm.
is he's out for justice. He's not the executioner or the jury. That's for the system, no matter how
That's for the
corrupt it
system.
is. That's just for the system.
Yeah,
And
I have mixed thought. I agree with you 100%. Like, I think that the system, but there's also, I think sometimes Batman goes a little too far. Like in the current issue of Hush right now, Joker literally is on death's bed and he's like doing everything he can to save his
yeah,
life. I'm like, you could just maybe
leave
not
him be.
try. Yeah, maybe not try. And I know that's the whole point of the issue is like, well, Batman doesn't, but there's like a certain point you got to be like, come on, dude, come on.
If I mean, if Batman killed the Joker as villains, what would sell Batman comics?
Well, and they talk
Who
about
would he
that, like,
fight?
when yeah, it's true. Well, they even talk about that when Joker was originally created, I think back in was it 39? I think it was Bill Finger who wrote that first issue. I wanna say, I could be wrong.
Mm,
But he died at the end of the issue, and the editor at the time was like, no, you need to bring him back by the end of the issue. Like, this guy is too good of a villain to just throw away like that." And, that's why I think there's, like, that final panel where he's like, "Ha, I'm alive still," or something like that, in Joker's first appearance.
Aha!
Yeah, literally, I think it's like that. It's like it like pops up out of
Yeah,
the he's like in the back of the gurney. He's like, "Ha ha." I don't know. I could be wrong. It's been forever since I read that issue. It's my own memory just bringing it up.
yeah, but
Uh,
and then also, but
Good.
wasn't Batman just ultra violent too
Yeah, he
when his
used a gun.
origin
He
too?
he used a
Yeah, he
gun
used a
in
gun.
his origin issues. Like he straight up shoots like I think he like shoots like a vampire. Like straight up he pulls a gun, and that's kind of why I was like kind of on board for this because it's like doing a year two using him exploring whether or not it's like well canonically at least back in the 30s he did use a gun for a period of time, and I thought that was kind of a cool way to like hey we're referencing that stuff that did happen, or like and like explaining why he did try and why it didn't work for him. That's why I was like I'm kind of on board for this as an idea, you know what I mean? Did it execute it properly? Mm,
Yeah, I
let's
think,
continue the
I think,
discussion.
yeah, yeah, right. But I think with Batman with a gun, it puts a bad taste in my mouth, and that's just me though.
Gotcha.
Like everybody,
I get you.
I'm just a traditionalist, I guess, with that way of Batman and like how Superman and stuff like those type
No,
of
no,
characters.
yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. I
But
appreciate what they were going for. I don't think I'm as like hardlined on as it is all because again, it's like it ultimately does end with him going like, yeah, I'm not going to do this, and like that's the thing. As long as he came out of like, hey, I tried this thing. You know what? Yeah, I was kind of curious about it, but I guess I'm not curious anymore. It's like, all right, cool,
mm,
that's cool, but whatever. From there, we'd mentioned that he's like
he
takes
was
that
on a
girl on
date
a
with a nun.
they end up making out. Things are going
Of
well.
course they do.
Bruce is charmed. Like I said, that's the excellent,
Yeah.
moment.
He uses bat charm from his utility belt.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't need no bat charm. He's got that, and he's got a +7 to charisma.
Yeah. If
Today's a
this
D&D
podcast
episode,
couldn't
apparently.
get any more nerdy, but you know what, Brian? just when you thought it couldn't get any more weirder, I mean, shit gets more weird from there.
It does. We're dropping
He's
so much vulgarity in this episode
I
because
know,
it's
right?
so
Because this
insane.
is
It's
we're just
insane.
get we're going as extreme as the Batman is.
Extreme.
We're extreme. Now he's just strapped and he's letting Gordon know that he's off the book for this one. He's
Yeah, he's
out with
like,
a vengeance.
yeah, I'm gonna piss you off. You're not gonna be my friend, but trust me, just trust me. You're gonna be my friend at the end of this. Just, I'm gonna do
Right.
stuff you're not gonna like, but
Right.
it's like,
But trust me.
yeah, but just trust me. It's gonna seem like it, but I'm not, but I am. And of course, like it gets out of fucking hand, like real quick. Like literally, the cops are again trying to do another bust. Reaper shows up. Batman shows up. Like cops like, cool, we got him. Bat's here to help us. Literally, Gordon pulls out his gun and starts shooting at the dude, and Batman pulls his gun and shoots the gun out of Gordon's hand. It's like what?
What is I mean, not only does he do use a gun, he could have used a batarang for Gordon. Like,
Yes.
why? Why the
Why
gun?
did he shoot Gordon? It's like, and also, I think Gordon was aiming at the Reaper. I mean, or whatever. It's like, wait a minute, isn't your whole thing you want to kill this man? Why are you shooting at the man who's your friend to stop the guy you want to kill? Like, wait a minute, what?
It kind of gave you an out, so you wouldn't be the one to kill
Yeah.
them. You have somebody else, but and you're just it just makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Well, and then he, like I said, this isn't even crazy. So then, when it all goes sideways and everyone kind of runs off to lick their collective wounds, Batman goes to the mob and is like, "Yo, this dude, the Reaper, is cutting into your business. He's cutting into people with me. Why don't I team up with the mob?
With the
Not the
mob, who
cops, the mob."
I literally just fought them in my year one book
Yeah.
and tried to bust them down not even a year ago in the continuity. Now I want to team up with them
And
for
let's form a truce and we won't kill
truce.
each other until we take down the Reaper. After that, whatever, all bets are off.
And this is also where he teams up with is it another like supervillain? Is it another
Doc,
vigilante?
maybe it's Mr. Freeze, maybe it's the
Could be
Riddler,
Mr.
maybe it's,
Freeze.
Catwoman. No, no, no.
No, is Joe Chill, the murderer of his parents, the the person who made Batman
Yeah.
is now working with Batman to kill again.
Yeah. And I love that, like I said, I mentioned it earlier. I love how they're like, Chill shows up and he's like, when I want hookers or blow, I come to you. When you want somebody killed, you come to this guy. And it's just like, what? What?
Huh.
Okay.
They
Sure. Okay.
like why are you trying to make the guy who murdered two people in cold blood cool? They're trying to make him cool and edgy, and he has that old like that
He's that
the
old, like a
enforcer
the
hat,
Newsies hat,
Newsy hat, and like a leather jacket. He
Yeah.
looks like he's from I don't know the Warriors. You know
Well,
that
and it's
movie,
also,
like
yeah, but he's also like 20 years older than Batman. He's like graying.
right?
He's like, yeah, you're a hit, man. Sure. And you're gonna keep up with like you said, he's vaulting up rooftops and just
Yeah, and
climbing ladders. Like what this
he's
55-year-old
trying to
old man
fight.
at the best, you know?
Right, he's trying to fight the Reaper. So it's silver on silver crime. It's what's
I mean,
going.
come on. Silver Fox versus Silver Fox.
Silver Fox versus yeah, I mean, as much Silver Fox as the beefed up Larry David was, but
Yes.
it's just
Well,
like, come
it
on.
it felt like the
Joe
panel
Chill?
would have. Yeah, I almost felt like the panel was supposed to end with them like shaking hands, like, "All right, Joe Chill, meet Batman.
Oh
Oh,
man.
we'll be teaming up together." It had that vibe. It literally had that kind of energy. We're like, "Oh, meet Joe Chill. All right, let's shake hands." It's like it's insane. And again, this isn't even where it gets crazier.
It's an issue too. Yeah, it's like, hey Batman, have you met this man? Joe Chill? Joe Chill, have you met Batman?
Yeah. That's the end of issue
Issue
2.
three.
Issue 3. You
Issue
wanna
three.
start? You go.
Issue three.
Detective 577. Or do you
I'm
wanna keep going?
exhausted. I'm
Alright.
exhausted. No, no, I'll go. Okay.
Okay.
So Joe Chill and Bats, they set up an undercover sting with criminals to take down the Reaper, and which of course cops learn about as well. And I guess Bats is okay with Joe Chill murdering criminals, but not the Reaper. Again,
Yeah.
he's good with everybody killing everybody except for the Reaper. Reaper is his
Yeah.
apparently.
Like, he's literally like, dude, he's like, he stops him one time. He's like, we don't use bullets because how are we supposed to scare them? And like, Chill's like, I guess that's cool. And then they get into a bar fight, and like, Chill just like murders some dude. He's like, Joe,
Yeah,
don't
no,
you?
no, no.
He literally is like, Joe, and just like, what? Like, you do that again, and I'm gonna have harsher words for you.
Right. You do that 3 or 4 more times, and we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah. Um,
And
as I mentioned, shows rocking the Luger that got Alan Davis to quit, which is crazy.
there's just so many just weird things about this whole thing. And then Bruce meets up with Rachel's dad finally,
Yeah.
in person. I guess not finally, but I guess Bruce meets
Bruce meets Judson.
Judson. That's what. Yeah,
Yes.
again, his name is so freaking weird. Where they let him know that she is dropping out of the convent to be with Bruce.
And he's
So
like,
he's
well,
converting nuns in 3 issues.
third issue, he's got her on board.
All right.
And the dad's like, all right, you seem like a good guy. I'm glad my wife or my daughter's leaving the covenant of God.
Right.
Just like,
I'm glad she's upending her whole, her whole
yeah.
work and becoming a nut, because she was almost ready to. So she
Yeah,
went through
she
all
was
the
like, it's her last
schooling and
vow. She was
everything.
literally was like, yeah, she was on her last vows. That was what she had to do, is take her last vows.
So screw all that. I'm gonna be with this billionaire playboy, which I kind of
To
see
be
that point. To
fair,
be
when you
fair,
put it
yeah.
in
To be
that
fair,
context,
to be
I would
fair,
do that. I'm like, be like, honey,
over here,
Bruce
yeah.
Wayne wants to be with me, so good luck
but
with the kids.
but we're married
You'll
63 billion. But we're married 63 billion.
it's like, don't worry, you'll get alimony.
Now later in the evening, Joe Chill and Bats attempt to stop the Reaper, but it's broken up by the cops, who bust in, and the whole thing turns out to be just another shit show.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Batman is forced to save Joe Chill from falling to his death, but swears on his father's grave that they have killed the Reaper.
After they kill the
And
Reaper,
after they
his
kill the Reaper, they swear, and then the next victim will be Joe Chill. Well, of course, brandishing the gun that killed his parents. So
it's like, God, I love it. It's just like, I'm saving you, Joe, but guess what? Next time,
yeah.
after we kill that guy, I'm gonna kill you. It's like, well, wait a minute, just let him fall. Who cares?
Right.
You're gonna turn on the mob anyway. Why do you need their guy? You know?
So why you need to kill these people when you've already kind of did this vow of I just like
It's
maybe just
insane.
because I am having a hard time thinking it's his second year, but it shouldn't be this hard. I mean, we all know Batman should just be hanging out in his mansion, listening to Nirvana, having Alfred do all the detective work while he's trying to fight the Riddler, and then a mob Penguin. That's what year 2 should all be about. And how crazy that sounded is not as crazy as this book.
Oh
Imagine
yeah.
imagine the Batman being this book, the year 2, like either happening right afterwards or right before the movie.
Spoiler, there's a reason this book isn't canon anymore. You know?
Yeah. Uh,
Well, so let's get into book issue 4. This is the final issue of the main series of year 2.
thank
This
God.
is Detective 578. Again, art by Todd McFarlane. We have Joe Chill and the mob again, like hanging out. They're set up another meeting, but they're like, this time we're gonna kill Batman. Even though that last one messed up, we're gonna kill Batman and the Reaper at the same time. And of course, the Reaper overhears the whole thing and he's like, yo, I'm going to go tell the cops that this is happening so I can really fuck some shit up. You know what I mean? Um, and of course, Bruce proposes to Rachel. And what does she say?
She says
Yes.
no. No, she says yeah.
No,
But
she's all about it.
4 issues. 4
Oh, yeah. No,
issues and
in
he's
the fourth
married.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
He meets her in the first one, goes on a date in the second one, gets her to leave the convent in the third one, and then proposes to her
Poses in the
in
fourth
the
one.
fourth one. Yeah. So, Bruce got game. Bruce
He's
got
got,
game.
actually, Bruce doesn't have game. Rachel has game. In
she,
4
she,
issues, she
she
bagged the
landed
billionaire
the billionaire.
playboy.
It's true. Good point.
Rachel is the one who's got the game.
Well, that's the thing is that does she have game because she bagged a billionaire? Or does he got game because he got her to turn on back on God? I don't know. I don't know. Hmm.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
That's for
That's a question for
take it
philosophers.
to the comments. Take it to the comments. Uh, Now
Um,
later the mob meeting goes off, the cops bust in on them, and of course the Reaper shows up and a bloodbath ensues.
yeah,
Bats
cops get
shows up and
killed.
cops get killed, you get killed, everybody get killed.
Gets killed.
Bats shows up and he breaks up the party, and the mob lament their team up with Bats, and the cops realize that he was on their side the whole time.
What? Who could have seen
What?
that coming? Despite the fact that he literally tells Gordon, "I'm on your side. I'm just gonna do some heinous stuff that looks like I'm not on your side."
Right. It's some like it was a Scooby Doo moment. It was you the
Yeah,
whole time.
yeah. But anyway, let's get into the fun part.
Batman takes Joe Chill to Crime Alley and
Mhm.
reveals to Joe Chill who he is, and is about to kill him when the Reaper just blows his head off.
I love that there's not even like that moment where Batman like has the gun against his head. And he's like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't do this. No, he's trying has the gun against his head. He's like, I'm gonna kill you, and then boom, the
Mhm.
kid's head blows off. And like, whoa, what the? It's like Reaper, haha, I knew you had it in you, even though I killed
Right,
him.
right, yeah. It's like I knew I could count on you. That's why I'm the one who did it.
Pull the trigger. It's like it should have been Batman, like, on the precipice, like, I'm not gonna do it. You know what? I've gone too far. It's not worth it to sully my parents' memory. And like, okay, now I have to deal with the consequence. I just revealed my identity to Joe Chill, the guy who killed my parents. Boom! Oh, hey,
Right.
great way to tap that up. The Reaper does it for me, and him being like, "You're a coward. You couldn't have done it anyway." Instead,
Yeah,
he's like,
yeah, exactly.
"Cool beans, dude. You were gonna
Yeah,
kill him.
thanks, man.
I knew you had it in
Thanks, man.
you."
Yeah, he should
Yeah.
have been rethinking himself, like
Mhm.
you said, like he's overwhelmed with that decision of
Yeah.
that he was about to
Yeah.
cross the line,
Absolutely. There
which
should have been at least even a panel or a throwaway line or anything
right,
that kind of hinted at that. It didn't. It is him with his like, "I'll put it in your mouth. I'm gonna stick it in your fore. I'm gonna kill you, like you son of a bee." And then like boom, oh, his
right.
head gets blown off, and you're like, "Oh, I guess I don't need to worry about that. Thank you, Mr. Reaper.
Yeah,
Now I'm gonna go
thanks,
kill
man.
you."
Right, exactly. Now we're gonna go and they head to the top of the Wayne Tower where the two
Mhm.
are getting ready to duke it out to the end, and Reaper's helmet falls off, revealing he is Rachel's dad the whole time. And he says he's glad that the city is safe and he says he's glad the city is in safe hands now, and that he knows Bat's the killer and lets himself fall to his death.
Sure.
Like what?
Or
What?
you can still marry my daughter. Bye. Yay.
Yeah, bye. I I didn't get you anything on your registry.
Seriously. It was like, "Wait, what?" And then so to top it off, though, then Batman's like, "You know what? Maybe this killing thing ain't cool." He takes the gun,
Right.
and he's like, "Here's this foundation stone for the building memorializing my father, Wayne Tower. I'll put the gun in the foundation and close it up."
Yeah, and
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if like commemorating like the building named after your father and putting the weapon
right.
that killed him in the
That killed him
foundations.
in the foundation.
I don't know if I would honor my parents' memory that way. I do like, there's some like iterations of that gun where it's like he dismantles it and he uses it as part of his chest plate. So whenever he gets shot at, that's like, there's like that. But it's like, that's weird, but
It's
sure.
weird. I mean, he could also just throw it in Gotham Harbor, like throwing away that side of him, like symbolically,
Yeah, or
like
melt
just
it down,
yeah,
anything, or just destroy it. I don't just like I'll put it in the foundation. Under the thing that
yeah,
says Wayne Foundation. It's like, okay, whatever, sure, why not? But at least
yeah,
he admits he's not a killer. He's like, I can't do this. I can't honor my parents' memory like this. Let me go get married.
yeah. Let's go get married to a nun. With her dad's death, though, Rachel, um, she backs out of the wedding proposal and heads back to the convent. She goes, "This has been fun, but now my dad's dead, so I'm gonna go back." Uh,
Yeah. It's like it was a good fling. Sorry I tea
Yeah.
timed you, God, and I'm back.
Back. What's up, guys? How you doing? Welcome back.
And
And then just Batman just moves on and becomes, Batman in his never-ending fight against Gotham.
that's the end of
Well,
it.
or
Not.
is it?
It is not.
Or is
Um
it?
or is it? So as we mentioned, like if you read all of just year two, that's the gist of the story. Alan Davis did come back with Mike W. Barr, and they did do I think it was like a 48-page one shot called Full Circle, in which they kind of close the loop of all of it. They kind of bring back some characters to kind of pick up the story. It's published in 1991. Like I said, it picks up in the modern era of Batman, where you still have a Robin now, who's Dick Grayson at the time, and Joe Chill Jr. Apparently, Joe Chill had a son we didn't know about, has found the Reaper armor and is using it to kill prostitutes and cops, much like the OG Reaper.
Right, and it turns out Joe Jr. was there the night his father's murder and saw the whole thing from the shadows and was able to recover the Reaper's body and his armor. And apparently, he saw Bats bury his father's gun in the building and recovered that one as well, which that kind of
Uh,
bit Bats in the ass.
Yeah, as you do. I mean, I just love that it's like, oh, the whole time he was in the shadows and we never saw him or knew him. It's like it's like that Simpsons thing where it's like, oh, not Simpsons, whatever. Frank Grimes, like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
Frank Grimes had a son. Oh, he did? Okay, yeah, he liked prostitutes. Oh, okay. Uh,
Huh, okay, yeah,
sure. Of course.
and
Go ahead.
no, just I was just moving into the Rachel's OG daughter finds out and seeks out Dr. Tompkins, but is eventually captured by who? The Reaper.
Ripper 2.0.
2.0, or is it
Well,
really 2.0? It's kind of like point 0.5.
well, yeah, point five. Well,
It's a downgrade.
yeah, it's a downgrade. His whole thing is he wants revenge against Batman for being
Mhm.
involved with the killing of his father, even though he did not actually pull the trigger. The Reaper did that, although he was going to pull the trigger, as we saw.
Right, and then it's Joe Jr., and then it's also his
Yeah, his
sister,
son.
has half sister.
It's his sister. I believe it's
Yeah,
his.
it's like his
Whether it's
half
his,
sister or something like
I
that.
think. Yeah, I think it's regardless. It's basically his sister, but then he has a son as well. So it's
Right,
Joey Junior. Because it,
right.
it's
Joseph
Joe.
Chill the third.
Yeah, it's like Joey, Joseph, and Joey. It's like Joe, Joseph, and Joey or something like that. I was like, okay, all right. But yeah, which is kind of like a weird, like, Robin analog a little bit. There's a little bit of a parallel between, like, like the father-son dynamic,
Yeah.
because then the
It's
whole
just
thing.
the theme they're trying to really shove down your throat. It's
Yeah,
the traumatizing of the son from
yeah.
the death of the father.
Yeah. So basically, eventually, of course, because he's the Reaper, he's able to eventually knock out Batman. He captures Rachel, right? Like you said, and sets up an elaborate scheme to get Batman to go try and rescue her. Correct?
Yeah, yeah. It's like this whole trap, and he's psychologically torturing Batman, and Batman's on the verge of jumping into a vat of acid because
Acid.
he's hallucinating this whole
Yes.
time. Like
Yeah.
he's tripping balls, dude.
Tripping balls in a big way. And so eventually Robin shows up and he's like, he kind of sees Robin as like, no, I got to protect my son, essentially, in a weird way, and
Mhm.
he manages to break free of the trap, and he's able to, like, stop Joe Chill from falling into the acid as well and keep him alive. And he's like, nope, we can end this. We can end the cycle of violence if we just stop killing each other. And that's kind of like how it ends.
Unneeded follow up to an unneeded story. That's just
It,
my opinion on it. This was not my favorite. I don't know if you got that
what?
sentiment. This was not
I
my
did not
favorite.
get
I
that. I
know.
did not get that from this
All
discussion
right.
at all.
All right.
Um, Yeah, I mean, in terms of the continuity, again, as I'd mentioned, this isn't really DC proper timeline anymore. The events of Zero Hour, which is an event that happened in 1994, 1995, around, I think it's 94, kind of reset the entire DC universe, even though they'd done like post crisis, but it was like another way to streamline everything. So we'll eventually do a Zero Hour episode and we'll talk about that. But this kind of replaced that timeline to where Batman didn't know who killed his parents. And in fact, in the current line of Detective Comics, Joe Chill is very much alive and well. And like Batman had to save his life again, because that's what Batman does. So with it being removed from the DC continuity, Josh, you are the animation guy, so this is kind of directed at you. Like, what was the impact of year two overall? And I set this up, know where this is going to go, but
Yeah,
please.
the biggest impact from this book, I think, is the influence that it had on the big Batman animated film, The Mask of the Phantasm, which it came out. It was a big deal because it was the animated series with Bruce Timm and
Yeah,
Paul Dini, and
it was a theatrical
and
release too, wasn't it?
it was a that was getting to the, yeah, he was a
Sorry.
theatrical release of this movie, which was a huge deal. Like, and they really brought you could tell when watching it too, they really brought the budget for it and everything, but it's very influenced by both year one and year two.
Hmm.
Um, the Phantasm is he looks like the Reaper in a sense.
Yep.
He has just the what are
The gun claw, or
the
gun axe,
claw. It's just
or it's like an
it's just like a little
axe.
claw. Yeah.
I thought there was a gun
Um,
on the end of it for some reason, but
Yeah, no, I don't think it was,
okay.
and, just it would have been cool,
But it definitely
cooler.
had the Reaper skull
Yes.
kind of a facade, and then it had, like you
Yeah.
said, a claw hand or a spike hand or
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, and then not only that, and then, Batman, or excuse me, Bruce, gets, engaged
Yep.
in and it goes back to his past,
Mhm.
with that, and, the person he gets engaged to has the connection to the Phantasm. Now, this is
Mm.
kinda spoilery, I'm just gonna be telling you who is the Phantasm, but also because of, problems with her father and the criminal mindset of their father.
Spoiler for a 33-year-old film, you know?
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. That's on Max, that you can watch on Max,
Yeah.
actually, and it's a very good movie.
Yeah.
I do really suggest watching it, and then but this one, has, of course, Batman kind of running from the cops in that moment, and he has his warehouse, not his abandoned building
Mhm.
moment, which it seems like, oh, if you read, like, Absolute Batman too,
Yeah.
he had it seems like a theme in Batman Year
Batman Year
One.
One.
Like, it has that theme of just,
Yep.
go on the wrong side of the cops, or on the wrong side of something,
Mhm.
and he's in an abandoned building. He has to get, saved by Alfred or by somebody to get out of it. So,
Yep.
that is it's in there, and it actually has a really good introduction of, not introduction, but just where it kind of differentiates mostly from these books is that, it has the Joker, and it
Yeah.
has a pseudo origin of the Joker. It's
Yeah.
implied that,
Yeah, the hitman, not
his
the hitman,
origin.
but yeah, 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 yeah.
It's like an enforcer, and just, the, like, bodyguard of the mob boss.
Well, and technically isn't Batman, I mean, it's not, but I mean, like, Batman, the animated series is kind of lightly inspired by the Batman film, both
Yes.
aesthetically, and it's kind of supposed, it was originally supposed to be like sort of like an offshoot of the
Oh,
original
almost
Batman
one to
film.
one, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and
Because
then
they use
like
the theme song. They use
yeah,
the
yeah. Well, it's
Elfman
yeah,
theme,
it's
yeah. Or
Danny Elfman.
Zimmerman.
Was it Danny Elfman though? Or
Is it Elfman or Zimmer? One of those
I think
guys.
it's Elfman. I
I
think
bet
it's
it's, Elfman,
he's the Oingo
yeah.
Boingo guy, right? Anyway, yeah, but so, in that continuity, Joker was Jack Napier, who was a mob enforcer,
Right.
who then fell into a vat of acid and then came out and shit crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway,
But but definitely, really just skip this book and watch Mask of the Phantasm.
well, I don't,
Or
here's
sorry,
the
I don't maybe both. I don't know. It's just that's how much
well, well,
I'm
well,
still raw from it. I'm
well,
still
tell you
raw
what,
from it.
let's get through similar reading. We'll talk final thoughts and recommendations. How about that? How about that? And then we
Well,
can
don't
discuss
go
whether or
to
not it's
that.
worthwhile. What's up?
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. I guess we've already got my final thoughts, uh, but definitely, check out Mask of the Phantasm, though. It's Kevin Conroy,
Yeah,
Mark Hamill is the
yeah,
Joker. Um,
yeah.
it's the animations, up to, like, as on
It's
par
up
with
to
everything.
snuff and all the yeah, yeah.
Yeah, all the out of all the, Batman Tim verse movies, it was the first and I think the best. Like, because then they followed that up with, the Mr. Freeze one, the,
Yeah,
like,
Mr.
Absolute
Freeze.
Zero,
Yeah,
and then the Mystery of the Batwoman one.
yeah. Well, what
And
about the
so
Batman Beyond one was excellent. I had never seen
that
that,
is
and
my favorite. Yeah, that's
I'm
what.
gonna s I'm gonna be honest, like, I watched I would say I watched those back to back, but you brought me the Batman Beyond movie theatrical, or I guess you could call it that was a theatrical, but, like, the big
Yeah,
movie, and after I watched that one first, and then I watched this one, for this episode, like, I think I like the Batman Beyond one a little bit better. That thing is
oh, definitely,
action-packed. It's
definitely.
really good. Like, I was, like,
And
It's
I'm
creepy
I'm
too.
yeah, I'm on record with saying I think that's Mark Hamill's best performance of the Joker in that movie.
Dude, I will tell you, I'm a Tim Drake stan, and, like, even though I was upset how he got done in that film, like, I was like,
Mhm.
"It's still really good. It's still really
Yeah,
good."
they definitely did the mix of Tim Drake, Jason Todd, but in their own way. But
Yeah.
that whole sequence too of just the Joker telling what
Uh,
he's done
yeah,
to Tim Drake at the time, and just how Mark Hamill is doing it
yeah,
is so creepy, but also is so funny. It's like he has the comedy moments,
yeah. I
and
will tell you,
it's just so good.
my six-year-old son pieced out, though, when, Bruce gets hit with the Joker, gas. He's like,
Oh
"No, I'm
yeah,
done."
that is creepy.
He's like, "I'm done." He's like, "I don't wanna watch
Yeah,
this anymore, dad. Turn it off." I'm like, "Alright."
yeah,
And
yeah.
when Joker shows up in Max of the Phantasm, my son was like, "Whoa, no, 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 my buddy, it's gonna be
Yep.
alright. It's not like that other
Yeah.
movie." He's like, "I
Right.
don't know about this, son, dad." Like, anyway,
Yeah.
um, speaking of similar reading, similar watching, if you're into this book for some reason, I'm not saying it's good or bad, check out Batman: The Long Halloween. We'd recommended that last
Yeah.
episode, but I think you really should check out Batman: Long Halloween or Dark Victory. I don't know if you need to read The Long Halloween, The Last Halloween, which is the current story
Mhm.
within that world. I think you can, or When in Rome, which is the Catwoman story. That's kind of that also is like a pseudo sequel to all
Yeah.
that. But definitely read The Long Halloween and Dark Victory. If you are a glutton for punishment and you like weird ass sequels to things, I recommend Ultimates 3, Civil War 2, or the current Hush storyline, Hush 2 right now. And that's
Yeah,
all I'm gonna say.
it's sequels that are make the originals horrible. It's
Well,
or they're
yeah.
horrible compared to the originals. Like Civil War 2, come on.
Alright.
Ultimates 3, there's
Come
so
on.
many crazy batshit stuff in that
Well,
one,
and
and
again,
then Hush 2
Ultimates
currently.
Ultimates 3 on paper is awesome. And I just realized that of our recommendations, 3
Oh
of the
yeah, 3
4
of the
are
4.
Jeff Loeb.
Yeah, 3 of the 4, Jeff Loeb. And the two of the sequels are just hit are is so bad, and the one of the sequels is a horrible sequel to his own work, so
Yeah.
it's
Well, and again, like the production value on these are great. It's like you've got, Long Halloween, which is Tim Sale and Jeff Loeb, excellent. The sequel, Dark Victory, excellent. Go check them
mhm,
out. Ultimates 3 is him and Joe Madureira, which we've talked shit about before, but like, man, that is again, that's like the Gremlins to Gremlins 2. Like, what?
right.
Civil War 2, that was Bendis, coming off Mark Millar, so it's a little different. I don't know. I don't know. I can't.
It's he
It's
tried
a
too
thing.
hard to have instead of the ambiguity of Civil
Yeah.
War, he really mainlined a bad guy, good guy
Yeah.
of Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel and
Iron
Iron
Man.
Man. It is completely out of characters for either of them. So
Yeah. And then in Hush 2, which is going on right now, it's just Jim Lee and Jeff Loeb again. I, we were talking a lot about like Batman rocking a gun. In the second issue, which just came out, I think it was like last week or maybe a week or two ago,
mhm,
Batman is trying to save the Joker's life, and Jason Todd, aka Robin 2, shows up, who literally had his skull beaten up by a crowbar by the Joker and then exploded with a bomb. Is like, why are you letting this son of a bitch live? And Batman's like, I gotta let him live. And like,
right.
freaking Jason pulls a gun. He like knocks the gun out of his hand and like shoots Jason Todd in the head with the gun to stop
To
him from
see who it
killing the
is.
Joker. Yeah,
Well, also
it's
to
like
see who it is.
make sure that it's not Clayface. And I'm like, sure.
It's
I'm
like,
like,
come on,
he's just
like Jeff
they're
Loeb, we
literally
get it.
they're literally holding guns to each other's head. I'm like, okay, I guess
Yeah.
Batman's rocking a gun again, you know?
Is Jeff Loeb has a thing of like referencing his own work a lot of the times, and that's what he was doing. He was just kind of like
I know,
the
but
whole Clayface turn, and I did not like that was so I was not a fan of that. And then also it it really
but
tarnishes Jason Todd's growth
yeah.
until this moment, till this point,
Well, because
because
it's regressive. It's the whole thing's regressive, you know?
he's gotten Jason Todd's no, he's not gotten like over it, but he's gotten better, and he's
Better,
not
yeah.
not the Red Hood anymore.
Yeah.
It's just
Well, he's not so full of vengeance and hatred and anger.
yeah,
He's developed beyond that. Now suddenly he's back to no, I gotta kill the Joker. But I mean, like the fact that Batman literally shoots at potentially one of his sons
yeah.
with a gun I know that Batman's apparently an excellent marksman, as we saw in this book in Batman Year Two. It's like, I'm sorry, like you don't know if that helmet's not going to shatter and you're going to blow out your son's eyeball or something like that and kill
Right.
them. Like, it's such an extreme reaction to whatever.
Hmm.
I We'll see how it all ends, but Hush 2 not shaping up to be the best.
I'm gonna read to make sure it does end. That's why I have to make sure that I see it do end.
Okay.
Um, but we're gonna get into our final thoughts. We've kind of, I mean, honestly, we've kind of
You've
been,
heard them through the episode, but
yeah, yeah. So my final thought, I was not a fan of this one, especially when it's compared to year one, especially when it comes off the heels of year one, just both thematically, the art style, the writing style. Like, how do you out Frank Miller? Frank Miller, that's crazy to me.
well, Frank
Um,
Miller did it with All-Star Batman and All-Star
that's
Batman and
very
Robin.
true. Oh goodness,
Like
we
he
should
upped
cover
Frank Miller
that one
himself.
just to be fun.
Well, it's
Um,
funny, like to that point, that's Hush 2 feels like a Frank Miller, like it was like one of the scripts
does
I got. It feels like a leftover All-Star Batman thing that he did with Jim Lee back in the 2000s.
it
That's what
does?
this
I
feels
mean,
like.
I feel like Batman's gonna have a huge dragon tattoo on his back out of randomly.
Oh, what is he? Ben Affleck?
It was the
The
no, it was
Batfleck.
Joker had that one. That's like,
Well, so did Batfleck, didn't he? He got that
no, yeah,
crazy
yeah.
back tattoo. Batfleck. Anyway, so you're not on board, is what I'm hearing.
You know what? I'm actually no, I'm not on board. This is not. It was not my favorite one. I, I don't know. I just the art style was okay. Again, there were some moments where I'm just like, what? Like Joe Chill is all of a sudden acting like Robin, where he's just flying out with Batman, side by side, like he's been an acrobat, and
Yeah.
instead of this like 50-year-old low level enforcer.
Yeah.
Um, and yes, Batman working with the mob, who he just threw a whole year trying to fight
Yeah.
and stop in the first place, and then he's resorting to violence so quickly, and to or not violence, but like to murdering so quickly, and yeah, it's like maybe they're trying to get something that's the same with the times that Batman came up at, or was his origin
Mhm.
back in the 30s, but that was there's been so many years in between that of the change. Even when you're
Yep.
doing an origin story, you
Yeah.
can. It was just it was not my Batman.
Not your
It was
Batman.
just not. It was. It didn't live up to the year one bar that it was established.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's a big old thumbs down from me.
Okay. Fair enough. For me, like I said, look, I think you're saying about it. The shadow of Batman Year One looms over the story, and unfortunately, no one is going to live up to those expectations. No one can. Like that Batman Year One arguably is one of the best Batman stories ever done. But even without that comparison, this story is bonkers. I almost give like the team credit for like, fuck it, we're going for it. We're gonna go for it. We can't live up to Batman Year One, so we're gonna do our own thing, and we're just gonna go nuts. You've got, as I said, shredded Mr. Burns, shredded Larry David, who is handing Batman his ass while wearing a leather armor and gun swords. After crawling through the sewers, he pulls out the gun that was used to murder his parents with the intention of killing this dude. Because the guy beat him up. He's like, you know what? I'm going to use the gun that killed my parents and kill you with it. And if that's not enough, he then teams up with the dude who killed his parents to kill an old man. He then convinces a would-be nun to hold off from holding her vows and marry him, and then, after saving the life of the guy who killed his parents, he straight up tries to murder him later and is only stopped after the Reaper blows his goddamn head off. This is not Terminator 2 to Terminator 2. This is Pitch Black to Chronicles of Riddick, or Gremlins 1 to Gremlins 2, the new batch. It is insane, and I give the creators full credit for going for it. Does it work? Do you need to read it? Probably not. Probably
No,
not.
I mean
I think it's
it's
a
kind of like
curiosity. Go ahead.
I think it's been kind of a good thing that this is not well known.
Okay.
Um,
I
but
think as a curiosity, it works. I think if you read it in the context of everything else that goes on, like in that DC's finest, it's like, okay, this is weird, but sure. I think if you just read it as a standalone story, you're gonna be like, what the bloody hell? Your best bet is to just go see Mask of the Phantasm. I don't think it's
or
that. I
even
don't think it's
the
go ahead.
Batman, or even
Or
the Batman,
yeah, or the Batman.
the
I don't think it's
Tar Pats.
Oh yeah, which whatever. I I don't think it's like one of those things where I'm like reticent to say it's garbage. There's nothing of value in it. It's like, no, it's insane. The art
Yeah.
is good. It's insane. And you kind of have to read it almost like go into it going like, okay. Also, here's the other thing too. I don't know if it pulls it off enough. That's the other thing. Is like
Mhm.
it felt like to me like the book was just missing. It's like everything on paper is insane, and it is insane. But like when you read like, okay, this is weird, but it doesn't have that like that thing where you're like, I gotta read the next page because this is
Mhm.
crazy. You know what I mean? It's just like you're more like, "What the hell?" You're not like, "What the hell?" It's more like, "What the hell?" I don't know.
It's like with, Batman Year One, it did so much with so little, and this one was trying to do so much, but came out with so little.
It
So
it's
it
it's it's like Terminator 3 to Terminator 2, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just trying to one up it, and even though it was made before it was written before it, but it just
Yeah.
seemed like it was trying to one up it, and it wasn't doing
Yeah.
well.
Which ironically, it was written before it, ironically
Yeah.
enough, but whatever.
But
So that's that. We're done with
that's
that
our
book.
that's our thoughts on Batman Year Two. Look, it's honestly, go out and read it for yourself and form the opinion on yourself.
It's a quick
No
read.
matter how much even though I didn't like it that much, I still would like people to read it just for the
Yeah.
sake of reading comics, reading the Batman, and just making the opinion yourself.
It's also history. It's the history of the Batman. It's worth knowing. If you're like a big
Yeah.
Bat fan, you should read it. You should know it. You know, it's quick. Like you can read this thing in like, like a half hour to an hour. It's not like it's like a dense read.
It may take you a little bit longer because you're going to be like, you need a
Yes.
few minutes here and there to be like, oh my god, what? I need a second. I
Yeah.
need a
Yeah.
break.
Well, if you're not going to recommend this book, what are you going to recommend, Josh?
All right, what's my
For
weekly
your
recommend?
weekly read, yeah, your weekly recommends then.
So my what I've been reading this week, what really kind of caught my eye, this actually past couple weeks, is been Absolute Flash. They've started to roll out more of their Absolute comics in DC. There's like they just had their next three. They started, with Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman. Now they have the Flash, Martian Manhunter, and Green Lantern. And what really kind of caught me was Absolute Flash because I'm liking how they're starting with Wally.
Mhm.
Um, I like how they are introducing the rogues as more of like a government, type of military, almost like
Like a
what's the
SEAL
best
Team
way to put
6 kinda
this?
thing.
Almost, yeah, kind of like that, yeah. And then the origin of Wally's powers. And again, well, this is gonna get a little spoilery, and please read this and stuff. But if you want to read for yourself and not be spoiled, then I gotta skip to
S
next
s
couple minutes.
so skip to like a minute or 2.
Yeah, a minute or two. But the way that Wally's powers kind of manifest or how he gets them is very similar to Doctor Manhattan from Watchmen, which I kind of like that kind of through line or that continuity because back in what it was the death metal, I don't know which one, the Batman death
Well,
metal, Batman.
it was post Rebirth is when they started introducing, like, Watchmen to the DC universe,
Yeah,
and
but
then
I
there was
mean,
that there was oh god.
in death metal or like in that Scott Snyder like death metal trilogy or just whatever, it's like they had Wally combined with Doctor Manhattan in a
Mhm.
way. So that could be something that it's like a through
Yep,
line through that because
yep,
the whole thing with Doctor Manhattan is um, different timelines, different universes basically,
yeah.
and so that kind of could have been something that in a way um, kind of branched out from that because even how Wally talks in the book is a lot like how Doctor Manhattan talks with different time like I'm and this time at this
Yeah.
time I'm talking to this, but at this one I'm talking to this one, this person, and I'm
Yeah,
doing this.
when you brought that up to me, I had to go back and reread the issue, and I thought, like, through that context or that lens, there definitely is a lot of parallels there. I'm a big fan of Jeff Lemire. I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
Wally West. I really do like this book, even without the sort of Watchmen. Even if you
Mhm.
remove the Watchmen lens from it, I still think it's a fun book. I think the second issue I've noticed this with Jeff Lemire. His first issues have a tendency to like land, but not great. And but when you look at it like it as a greater whole, his stories seem to get better and better and better. And I think like the second issue really kind of sealed that book for me because the first issue I was like, it's fine, but the second issue when he introduces the rogues like really sealed the deal for me. I will
And
say, go ahead.
no, just and speaking of the second issue, the end of the second issue where they introduce Gorilla Grodd, which
Yeah, that was a great
something
reveal.
it was a cool reveal, but
It was
also
fun.
for me, like you notice his color.
Yeah, I did.
Gorilla Grodd is all green,
Mhm.
so in a way, could that be another absolute introduction of Beast Boy?
It could be.
Or in a way
Absolutely.
like that way. So that was just kind
Absolutely.
of like a that when I
Absolutely.
saw that was my first thought, like they're just
It's
calling
funny.
Beast Boy
Was it
Grodd.
green? I thought it was like purple for some reason. Why is my mind remembering purple? Because I was like Wonder Twins. No,
Oh yeah, yeah, goodness, yeah. But
yeah. I go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was just gonna move on to what your weekly
Oh, well, I was just gonna
uh,
piggyback on your talk on the absolutes, which was just like if you're not also check out Absolute Wonder Woman. That book is phenomenal. Absolute Martian Manhunter. I've only read the first issue, but Absolute Man, I will say, Absolute Martian Manhunter ends. The last page on that is the reason why you do need to buy it in paper as opposed to buy it digitally, because they do a thing on the last page where you have to hold it up to the light to see the image through on the other side. And it's really cool. It's a really thing. It's like, oh, that's why. I know you prefer digital,
oh yeah.
Josh, but this is one of those things where I'm like, it's they do a really cool effect where you literally says hold it up to the light and you're like, that's cool. That's really neat.
Oh, cool. I'll have to try to check that out because yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
again,
yeah.
it's they're
But
bamboozling
yeah,
me. They should at least have that
yeah.
in the digital. But
Yeah, yeah. That all said, like I do like the absolute lines. I think Green Lantern's the weakest so far, but I enjoy the Batman. I enjoy the Superman. Anyway,
to
the
be
books I
fair
want to
though, too,
recommend.
Green
Yeah.
Lantern has only had one issue. Where all of them had at least two. So let's just see how the second issue of
No,
Green
I'll
Lantern
give.
is.
I'm always gonna still check
Yeah.
it out. I'm just saying the first issue didn't hook me the way the other ones did. The two books I'm recommending are both from Oni Press. Free for All by this guy named Patrick Horvath. He's the guy I've recommended quite a few times about. He did a book called Behind the Woods Where the Bodies Are. What the hell is it called? Oh, damn it, I can't remember. Anyway, it's a really good book. It's a one shot, like 48 pages, and brilliant art, brilliant story. Basically, like, what if the 1% had to fight in ritual combat to hold on to half their wealth? They either give half their wealth to socialism, or they can fight in an arena to keep their wealth. It's a really fun political satire. The other book is Chris Cantwell, the guy from Halt and Catch Fire, and artist Tyler Crook. It's a book called Out of Alcatraz, and it's like, what if the three guys that escaped from Alcatraz, like, with a hidden story of those guys. Real fun book. So check those out.
The free for all sounds like a reverse Hunger Games.
It kind of is. Um, um, it's like the book he did before. It's the book he did before. Why I'm really mad that I'm blanking on the name. I think it's like Behind the Woods Where the Bodies Are. Where nobody sees. I think it's like Behind the Woods Where Nobody Sees. It's basically the Berenstain Bears meets Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, yeah, I think
And
you've mentioned that before. Yeah.
yeah, it is excellent, and this guy's just kinda continuing that trend of just, like, great commentary with great scary not scary, but, like, really good art. It has, like, almost a reminiscent of, like, Frank Miller, his early Frank Miller, if that
Hmm.
makes any sense.
I think
So,
it's beneath the trees where nobody sees.
that's what it was, Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Okay.
What is it? Yeah, yeah, anyway. So, yep,
It
those are
sounds like
my
a creepy Berenstain Bears book.
it is, it's really good, though. Like I said, it's Berenstain Bears meets Hannibal Lecter, and you should buy it instantly just on that premise alone. Anyway.
Awesome. Well, I mean, yeah, that's our weekly recommendations. That's also our discussion on Batman Year 2. Thank you everybody for listening. We're wrapping it up now, as you can tell by me saying, thank you for listening. Please make sure to subscribe to us and hit us up on the Instagram and Blue Sky. We got issues cast on Instagram, and then we got issues on Blue Sky, and then I think Brian, you are the Bcomp.
The Bcomp on Blue Sky.
And if you like this episode, please tell your friends, tell your family, tell everybody, and anybody who wants to learn a little bit more about comics each episode, and make sure to rate us 5 stars, and give us even comments. Comments are really
Yeah.
nice as well. Um,
Yep.
and let us
Five
know.
stars.
Yeah, 5 stars. And
Yeah,
then
whatever.
if you want us to chat about anything, just let us know through those the socials,
Yep.
Blue Sky or Instagram, and make sure to try duffshaw.com/issues for some snacks. And guess what, Brian? Do you know what we're going to be talking about next episode?
We were kind of back and forth, but I think I convinced you we're going to tackle Batman Year 3. Yes, there was a
Yeah,
Batman Year
there's year 3.
there was a Batman Year 3 out there. No one ever talks about it, but it is coming back into trade in August. And I thought, why not? Let's just finish the trilogy of Bat Years out. Of course, after that, we'll have to do Batman Zero Year, but that'll be down the
Right, and
road.
then Batman 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Year 100. But yeah, I think we'll do Batman Year 3, and if not, maybe I'll change my mind if someone hits us up on the old Blue Skies and says, you know what,
yeah.
I'd really like some Infinity Gauntlet or something like that.
Oh goodness, we can. Yeah, and please somebody. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I was one of those people that did not know that there was a Batman Year 3. So
yeah.
I
Mark
knew, like,
Wolfman.
I know, and Perez cover. So
Yeah,
definitely check that out. If you want to read it with us, it's on Comixology. You just have to. It's not in trade yet, but you can definitely find the
yeah.
single issues. Just look that up on. I think it's single issues. It's what
Yeah.
Batman 436 through 439.
Yeah, and it's also collected in the Cape Crusader Volume 2 trade that came out a few years back, but that's kind of really hard to find, but you can probably find it on Comixology or find the seals. The seals are relatively cheap. I think I found them each in my comic shop for like $4 to $5 each. But yeah, it's also the first appearance of Tim Drake in there. So
Yeah,
spoiler.
the best Robin.
I will say that. Yeah, I actually
Yeah,
I
that's one
I
of the things
know.
we agree on. Yeah, it's one
Yeah.
of the things we agree on.
Yeah.
We believe he's the best Robin.
Mhm. I have no problem going to bat on that one. Pun
Yeah,
intended.
we'll have that. Yeah, we'll have that discussion on the next one too. I think we should
Yeah.
discuss that. The Battle of the Robins,
Yeah, I agree.
a
All right.
round robin tournament.
Bam, done. And
Oh
on that note,
man.
drop the mic, turn it off. We're done.
Right. Yeah. All right. Thank you everybody for listening. We'll catch you on the next episode.